Hey everybody, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending. I'm just gonna start early. So what I tried to do here tonight is just hit the live button with a 30-minute notification because I've been seeing that people were having problems coming in. Correction, they were having problems getting notifications. So I was thinking that with the people I've communicated today about the live streams and they don't see the notifications, I was trying to tell them how to do it. If they haven't got the little bell on with the options for all to show, then there won't be any notifications. So I thought I'm gonna just hop on live and see what happens if that triggers a notification. I do not see those people in the chat, so maybe they will come in later. But I thought I would give us a little bit of a little backdrop of my October bloom extravaganza. ¿Por qué no? Goodness me, those were the days. I'm all hunkered up. I had my hot chocolate, yet my hands are cold. So, Roby, Mirena, FFF, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. What I have in store for today is obviously to, as I mentioned in my title, to have a look at the seedling setup from back in the day of 2020 and see if anything has changed at all. But in the meantime, for everybody that is an early bird here, I have something to share with you. And I wonder if you know about this. It is a new species announced in August of 2022, and she is from Tanzania. That is my neck of the woods, just across the border. So I thought, if you are so inclined, if you're interested, if we should have a look at that first, because I have words. I do. Let me know in the chat. Give me a 1 or whatever it is. Okay, yes, interested. A 1 in the chat if you want to, and a 2 in the chat if you just want to skip straight ahead to the video and to begin the roasting and the update. Okay, now I have ice water next to me. If I forget to mute the mic, I do apologize for, if you hear me swallowing or something. But I've had a lot of honey as well today. Okay, so here's what I discovered a couple of months ago, and I was like, oh my goodness. It is amazing. So let me go and find what I have prepared for you, and let's see what we've got. Let's see what they found. And it is a German dude from Bayreuth. Where is my tab? There we go. Boom. There she is. That is, ladies and gentlemen, Ripidoglossum pariensis. Ripidoglossum pariensis, discovered around about maybe earlier this year, only documented and determined a species in its own right, and the paper was published in August of 2022. And when you look at her, when I looked at her, I went, do I have it or don't I? But we'll get to that. So the most striking feature of this newly discovered orchid, which is only a few centimeters tall, is its white flowers. If you have been watching my videos, then as I go through this paragraph right here, I wonder if you're going to maybe remember some similarities. So a few centimeters tall and its white flowers. If the orchid is held against the sunlight, the flower appears to glisten. The flowers are smaller but more numerous than those of the closest related orchid species, Ripidoglossum ledalii. The inflorescence is much more compact and resembles that of a lily of the valley. Rhipidoglossum pariensis grows in cloud forests at an altitude above 1,500 meters, where it was discovered by Dr. Andreas Hemp. Yeah, hemp, that is the good stuff that you can also, make clothing out of, not just smoke it, during research work. The trees here only reach a height of 10 meters and are densely covered with mosses, ferns, and orchids. Rhipidoglossum pariensis belongs to these epiphytes. Look at that. Tanzania. Ooh, love it. The now discovered orchid species probably owes its existence to the very unusual climatic conditions in the cloud forests of the South Paray Mountains. Although it often rains only 700 milliliters a year, there's also the fog precipitation. Fog, we like that stuff. Wish I had some of it here, but anyway, which is 2 to 3 times this amount. And I keep specifying words like this because when we talk about watering orchids and how much water they need, very often I also mention dew, and very rarely do I mention fog, but for me, I'm not saying they're the same thing. I'm not saying they're the same thing, but you can see how much water this little one needs, but it doesn't need to be saturated because it's not about the rain. The amount of fog that this orchid has is 3 times the amount of the actual rain. So basically, it just lives off of the water and the moisture and the fog. The mountainous region in northeastern Tanzania is truly a botanical El Dorado. Ooh, it is indeed. Unfortunately, at the time, I wasn't looking for orchids when I was up and around in that area. So then he goes on to say he had discovered another species, and he is the department head of plant systematics at University of Bayreuth. All right, so he does courses and studies on the biodiversity and ecology of African forests. And I don't know who that lovely lady is, but I'm sure it's got nothing to do with our article. Okay, so the Bayreuth biologist has established vegetation study plots on numerous mountains, and on each plot, he has completely recorded and documented the species composition of the vegetation. In total, the resulting database now comprises several thousand vegetation records. Typical of all tropical mountain rainforests are the epiphytes, which play an important role in water balance and diversity. I think this is fabulous. Anyway, if this orchid had not bloomed at the right time, it would certainly have gone unnoticed, says Hemp. In the neighboring Tanzania Nguru Mountains, which, like the South Paray Mountains, belong to the Eastern Arc mountain chain, he found another previously unknown orchid species from the large genus Polystachya during his recent research visit. Oh, I love East Africa. Isn't that fabulous? Is it just me? But when you come across things like this, and then actually this is my hood, I'm like, wow, we have so much to offer. But we're not done there yet, because what we're going to do next is we're going to go to Tanzania and have a look-see as to where this gorgeous picture, so keep this picture. Hey, Anita, good to have you. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Keep this picture in your mind, including that beautiful, beautiful rainbow over there. Shall we zoom in just for a little bit and see what happens? Oh my goodness, my screen. Oh, I'm about to, homesick much. Look at this, look at this. Look at that. Oh, just breathtaking. I don't know about you, but things like this just make me smile. I can just sense the peace. Okay, right. Now let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let me see. I want to take you to Tanzania. This is like a little bit of a lesson of, look at this. Does this look familiar? Does this look familiar or what? I think we've been very, very close before. You see this right here? Eso soy yo. If I can get my Google Earth to pay attention to me. And we're going to type in the Pare Mountains once again, just so that we keep sight of where we want to go. And now, maybe he'll take us down. You see, this is my boma right here. Look at that. Mombasa, Pare Mountains. Look who's over here. Look who's there. We go a bit closer. These are my hunting grounds down here, if you've seen Orchids and Stories. And then the Pare Mountains always seem to want to disappear, but this is the Pare Mountains. So we've got the South Pare Mountains, and they belong to the entire chain that goes all the way down. Now they said northeast. Look, this is not northeast, but it doesn't really matter. I guess it's semantics. Keep an eye on the spot right here, because if we go back out of Google Earth, we will see how huge Tanzania is. So if we go by their thing, we can say yes, northeast, if they consider this the south. So in a way, I would say up here, you know, I don't know. But when you look at it from here, you can see Mount Kilimanjaro, and it all is one volcanic chain of mountains. Not as high as Kili, but they're there. And this is where the new species were discovered. Isn't this fabulous? And this over here is me. Oh, I couldn't believe it when I read that article. Anyway, so I thought I would share that with you, inspired by Roby Robinson with her article that she sent me, and I thought it was super interesting. I cannot guarantee that every live I'm going to be able to start with something of this nature, but you know, I'm sort of like trying to think now, how can I structure my lives to make them more interesting and not just, you know, us having a good laugh over an older video plus updating to see what has changed in the meantime. So having said all that, by the way, for all of you that are here, would you be interested to do a live with me just about Kenya, where I was, where I went to school, using Google Earth? Let me know in the chat, also with a 1 or a 2 if you would rather have a video. Can anybody still hear me? Oh, okay, got it. Okay, wow. Okay, I will try to work around it. And yes, Fernanda, you are absolutely right. Okay, we will do that. We'll do that on a live then, because then I can zoom into buildings and we can have a look around. And I do believe, even though I don't have the app downloaded, I can go into 3D and yeah, okay, we'll deal with that. I will try to figure out a time where it is feasible for everybody, whether we're going to do a coffee and chat in the mornings. I'm going to have to work around that. There will be some feedback needed. If you don't mind, anybody watching this stream afterwards, let me know in the comments as well. So, because I think this makes a lot more sense, because if I can just zoom into a place and talk to you about it, if they have 3D or Google Street View there, we'll go down and we'll just talk. Okay, right. So what else I have in store for you is when we go back to our newly discovered species is, let's see, let me just get myself organized here and make sure that I don't Guys, I'm having an overlap with my stream. I'm struggling here. I don't know where it's coming from and why I can't stop it. And we're back. Sorry about that. My profound apologies. That should not have happened like that. I really am sorry. I do apologize for that profoundly. There was an overlap and I couldn't figure out why it was doing it. Okay, so what I wanted to show you, and it's a shame that we got interrupted because things were going so well. Anyway, what I wanted to show you is exactly what Fernando was saying. And I made a little bit of a comparison here for you so that you could see a little bit more closer the image of that new species. Okay, so there's the image of the species right there. Just have a look at that. It may already look familiar. I have to go and find the YouTube side of things because if I get those nasty bots coming in, then we have an issue and I don't want that. I want to be in control of the chat on the YouTube side. Okay, thank you for your patience. I'm very, very sorry how they crisscrossed all of a sudden. Okay, so here we have Ripidoglossum pariense, all right? And now, this is mine, Podangis dactylotheras. Look at that. When you see that, isn't that amazing? I tried to get my images in as close as possible on a side-by-side so that you could see. When I saw this image, I thought, no way. But can you see the difference in the foliage? Okay, so my Podangus is obviously like a little fan, whereas the Ripidoglossum pariense has proper shaped leaves. But the flowers, look at this. It is made of glass. Remember the article said they shine and they sparkle in the sun? Well, there's such minute difference between the two, with the exception that the foliage is different. And look at the flower spike. To me, the flower spike looks like that of, let's say, an Arangus, similar green, bolt upright coming out of the fan. Not a fan, but the base of the orchid. Isn't that amazing? And then when you look at mine as the Podangus, because this one also grows in Kenya, Podangis dactylotheras, and you can only see what for me, if I didn't know a Podangus and how it looks, I would say this could also be a Podangus just by the blooms. But these guys, they've got it together. But even if we look now closer at the blooms, you see the spur here? It is a lot shorter, more stout, even down here, much more stout and compact. And then you look at the Podangus over here. Look at how long the spur is. Look at that. And yet, the flower, the bloom shape, has a similar Moreno kind of glass cup. The same area. I say Kenya because I'm biased, because it also grows in Kenya, because they're so close to the border there from Kilimanjaro to Kenya. But also in Tanzania, very, very close. So when I saw this and they discovered a new species, now it's not to say I want one. No, I don't, because when I look at where they are growing and how much fog they need, that equates to me super, super high humidity, and we don't have that. And I think my Podangus is only doing well because it's still small and manageable, and time will tell how good it's going to grow once it gets bigger, because of course that is what we want, for them to get bigger. But look at the leaves even. Unfortunately here we only see the back of the leaves, but still. Isn't that remarkable? I don't know. That's me. That's me. I was done when I read that. I was so proud of East Africa. Oh, wow. Okay. Once again, before we actually start in with the stream, with the roast, remember that if there's anything that you want, if you want to come up and you want to talk, then just make sure that you tell me in the chat and I will stop what I'm doing and there will be a link in the chat and then off we go, up you come and we can chat away, okay? This is again, your voice should be heard. Mine is here to fill in the blanks. All righty. Today we are going to be taking a quick look. I hope it's quick. I hope that it is even a little bit more fun. We're going to take a look at the status of the seedlings, how they look. Make sure I've got everything set up. Make sure I don't cover all my face. Well, my face is covered, but you know what I mean. Can I share this, please? Would you mind? Thank you. That's fantastic. I do like it when a plan comes together. Okie dokie. So we could do with some sound, maybe. So this was a request. Still got my rudimentary heart. Very, very early days. Alrighty then, here we are for a quick more of a deep dive into seedlings and what I do. Okay, who have we got here right out of the gate? First of all, this is a newly identified one that was identified for me. That is Eva Himno de la Madrugada right here. Yeah, she did bloom for me. That's how she got identified. She was a purchase from eBay, but I wanted to have a different orchid, so she was mislabeled. And then we have my two Leones here. This one isn't here anymore. This one has gone to be with a lot of other orchids from my collection, and they've formed a collection somewhere else altogether. Probably chit-chatting about their experiences on the patio and why they had to bolt. And then here is a teeny tiny little seedling, which is a Leopoldii cross. It is from an orchid seller. He just sells seedlings of Cattleya crosses here in Europe. It's called Blue Cattleya. He's also on eBay, but I never remember the cross names of these guys from the orchids that I have, because until they don't bloom, I'm just making sure I take care of them. They're Cattleya seedlings, and that's all I know about them. That's all I need to know. But they're supposed to be big, like bluish color, cerula kind of color of blooms. And this is a Leopoldii cross. Now, the reason that this one is here and not the other ones, because I have like 3, which I used to take care of all in one go, because true to Leopoldii form, it is pretty slow, it is pretty obnoxious, and it just refuses to grow properly. So that's that one. And then here's Laelia tenebrosa, and yes, I call that a seedling because back in the day, this one was very, very small, even though the pot is bigger. And then we have here Taiense, I believe, Cattleya Taiense or Velutina. Not entirely sure. Maybe we'll see the tag. And then Harpophylla, which back in the day I assumed was a seedling simply because it looked so small, but it's not. It wasn't. So this was completely misplaced right here. Moving on.
When I do it, why I do it, and hopefully I get it right. This is a request from Megan K. Thank you very much. You got me thinking in order to get these answers straight and do your request justice as to why I do what I do, because sometimes it's just intuition.
That still applies. I do operate a lot by intuition. Of course, if I've made a mistake in the past, then I will try to correct it. If I do get a replacement and work on the replacement surviving, I will not do what I did before, because clearly that didn't work. Now, but it's still very much intuition based on what I have available and what I can handle. So that still applies. And if Megan K ever sees this video, hi, It's so good to have had your question. We are reviewing your request video from back in the day, and I hope you're doing well.
So, no, you got me thinking, and I appreciate that. And let's see if my logic holds true.
Jump cutting.
This is
Ileana in the house. Hello, hello. Oh, look at that windy light. Oh, your avatar. Ooh, it's good.
This is going to be interesting. So I pulled out some of my seedlings and comparison plants to give an idea where my thought process goes with regards to caring for seedlings, for one, when to repot them, if to repot them, and why I don't.
Okay, so can we just get into it, maybe?
Have a look and
maybe a little bit more enthusiasm in that voice.
If I can do your request justice.
Okay.
Right.
Let's see.
First of all,
sorry about that. I got to make sure that I don't speak over myself.
When I get a seedling in, I should already know what size is the plant going to be when it...
We wish, huh? Listen to that wishful thinking. I should already know what size the plant is going to be. Well, how many times have we actually bought maybe a near blooming size and what we get is a seedling? Oh, wow. That was a lot of wishful thinking in that single phrase.
It's mature. So that is one of the conditions I base what pot am I going to put it in as a seedling.
But you see, that phrase as well shows that even as I order, I'm already thinking, do I have the material in the house or do I need to shop for it? If I have the material in the house, I'm already assuming I know the size of the plant. And well, we've all been burnt. We've all had that experience where that is not what I bought. That's not what I paid for. Never mind the mislabeling, but we get it and we're like shocked at how small it is. So yeah, flexibility in the brain. Sometimes we have to do mental gymnastics when we do an unboxing and think, but I had a pot for this. And now we have to go, oh dear, maybe it just will go in a Tupperware container after all. Enter my Leopoldii cross right here, because that was meant to go in a pot like this one right here. Classic.
Because I do want to minimize disturbance as best as possible.
That distortion.
So that's my first thought. How big is the plant going to be? Determines the pot size. The second thing is when I see a seedling when it comes in.
So what do I do differently this time around? Or since that thought process is, I wait for my 3 hours. Excuse me, I've got somebody already telling me I'm talking too much. Sorry, that's my other laptop telling me the time again. I've shut him up. Right, so what have I done differently since this comment and this statement has come out? Even though I believe I know what's coming in the box, I wait. I don't buy anything in until I don't see the size of the orchid.
I determine the size of the plant, how long it can stay in the pot I'm going to put it in. Because I want to disturb it as little as possible. I want it to get established.
Yep, we still do that.
And then that becomes the second factor. If the seedling is smaller than the pot I had intended for it, then I have to rethink.
I jumped ahead. Sorry, lady.
Third,
sorry, jumped ahead there.
And what do I need to do to control how wet the base of the seedling is going to get, while I still try to provide it with enough humidity in order for any roots that are coming not to desiccate and go down into the media. So if the roots are thin, I normally opt for a bigger media.
Stop right there. Stop right there. I don't anymore opt for bigger media. Wrong, wrong, wrong. This orchid still is alive. This is my Eva de la Madrugada, Himno de la Madrugada. Look, I do not use any more large media when it comes to fine roots. The smaller the roots, the smaller my media is. And it doesn't matter whether I'm growing in inorganic or organic media. if I were to grow in organic media, it would be seedling bark and not the other way around. I wouldn't do chunky bark on a small rooted orchid. So yeah, that is completely different now. I would never do that again, and I strongly recommend against it if you are in a dry climate. If you are in a very humid climate, then the opposite is true, because you've got humidity to compensate any kind of drying out at the surface level, and your wicking efficacy is so much better. We can think of the fog back in the hills of Tanzania. Yep. Okay. Updated right there. Oh, maybe a sound
thicker,
would be good.
Like here.
Let's go back.
A bigger media.
Okay, we've debunked that.
Airy.
Doesn't work.
As opposed to if the roots are thicker, like here with the Leopoldii cross, where I can see the roots going into the media and drinking.
Hurry up. Talk, woman.
A lot more moisture.
I wonder what would happen if I sped this video up.
But again,
Mickey Mouse
depends
voice.
on the size of the seedling and what its needs are. I do not use a humidifier.
I still don't.
That is another thing I have to think of. Humidity has to come from the environment, or I have to provide it.
Still do that.
If you have a humidifier, that changes it a little bit. It makes your life a lot easier. I do not have one.
Still does.
I have stopped using heat mats.
Yep.
For
still applies.
I used to overwinter everything that came in and was a seedling or young plant on heat mats.
Okay.
And the cost was just...
Yes.
No, I couldn't do it anymore. So this is now my first winter overwintering these guys that I consider delicate.
Well, we know how that went. So for anybody who has not joined a live previously, this is also for me an opportunity to say thank you to everybody that has watched videos like these, where my tone, my voice was, my whole effect was flat. There's a lot of umming and ahhing and waiting for a thought process to come through, all of that stuff. I find it personally a little bit irritating to watch, because I do like to talk with a flow, and this is very, very difficult for me to watch. So everybody, thank you so much for sticking with me. I so appreciate it. And yes, still applies. I still don't use a humidifier, and we know what the winter spring of 21-22 had in store for these orchids. Meanwhile, out of the entire table, I have all of them with the exception of that Leopoldii I mentioned before.
Without a heat mat, okay? So let's have a look. I'm going to start with this one here, which is my
You see, that was 4 minutes and 20 seconds of blah, blah, blah. Now am I getting to the point? Okay.
Velutina, which you did not see in my little bebe introduction. So this Velutina came to me, and I thought I was
wrong on both guesses. It's the Cattleya velutina. She is not a big orchid. She is a medium-sized orchid. She is growing very well. I do not know when I'm going to see blooms. She is doing fabulously.
Going to get a bigger plant. But this is the seedling, which would be the same ratio-wise as the Leopoldii here on the left is. But the Velutina is going to get much bigger. So I saw that I had functioning roots when I got it in the pot. It was in bark like usual, and I saw these roots and I thought I can work with that, and now I have a growing tip.
Okay, well that's not important. Why can you work with it?
I can work with it in this pot, which is a 15 centimeter.
Thank you, that's the point.
Reservoir on the bottom, because I can see them, I can see how they react. I haven't buried the base, and I don't want to move this plant for any considerable amount of time. So establishing it in its media where it's going to live for the next 2 or 3 days is another is another thought process.
I still do that.
The less you can fiddle with seed.
I still do that, except now I put these kinds of orchids into the center of the pot, even if I have no intentions of messing with them for 3 years, 2 years, whatever, depending if I have to intervene. That's great news, but I prefer to even drag it out even longer. However, my only difference now what I would do differently is put that little Velotina into the center of the pot, because it just looks really, really silly like this. And if I wanted to repot, then we would have an issue with the length of the roots coming all the way out here, being so tough. Trying to then reposition the orchid makes it even harder. The root would probably snap. So you're kind of I'm limiting myself by putting it right at the edge of the pot, as normally is sort of suggested. No. For me, all the orchids now get placed into the middle, and then from there on in, even an up pot is easier, because there's not one single root that is obnoxiously long stopping the operation. Okay, thank you, Roby. Thank you so much. The length of the root convinced you, Fernanda? Okay. Right. I'm just, we come into a rhythm, we go into a rut, and I become so routine orientated. This is what I do, this is how I do it, la 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 la, without, too many thoughts about it. And then you come up against the situation, and only then you get that light bulb moment, and you're thinking, why have I done this for all these years? This makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, that's the only update based on the Velotina.
Seedlings, the better. The reason I'm saying that is because back here I have the Tenebrosa aurea. It's already been with me for 2 years. It is considered in my eyes a juvenile.
Okay,
but
I correct myself from before.
Pot because I didn't want to move it, also for a considerable amount of time. Especially when they're not established and they're a little bit older, they can actually dump all their roots much quicker than a seedling would if you keep the base nice and moist. If I were to let these roots dry out completely all the time, I would lose these roots because of the way it was started in its little pot.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just don't like the way I formulated that. This is what I mean when about talking in circles. Seedling roots, of course, we know come with a very high water retentive medium. Again, it doesn't matter, inorganic or organic. They come with a high water retentive media. And if I were then to put it into a pot where the water retention is much lower, those roots would be lost because, the velamen couldn't handle the dryness around them. Now, the juvenile for me, it didn't make much more sense what I've just said, but the juvenile could go into another media because it's not as fragile. I could be a little bit more radical with that. So let's just say I got the media mix wrong, which clearly I didn't, because you can see how that leca is rising out of the pot. It was doing fine, apart from the mechanical root damage I did from touching the pot. But when it comes to a more established orchid, even if it's not yet blooming size, making a mistake on a media is not that big a deal, because the structures have so much more storage. They can withstand much more stress. I don't think I add that to this video. I wasn't as elaborate back then, but we'll see. Let's see.
So I try to put it in a pot. I don't have to move it or repot it for a considerable amount of time.
You've said that already. Keep moving on.
Then I try to manipulate the humidity around the roots of the seedling while it's getting established.
Yes, we still do that.
So basically, this plant, the Velotina, is projected to be this big.
Is it? Nope.
As an adult.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Half the size. Wrong.
If I can leave it in this pot for 2 or 3 years, maybe even 4, then I've achieved what I've been thinking of doing.
Yes, that's
fine. Leave it alone, establish, let it grow and mature.
That's fine, yes. And she's doing great.
Here, you saw this in my Bebe's video, the Harpophila.
Oh.
Here I have nothing.
The disclaimer up there. First of all, Rupiculus is spelt wrong. Oh my goodness, Nina. Okay, listen, why am I laughing? First of all, how would you know, would you even care as a viewer that I had not posted a video yet, even though I am showing the Harpophila? No. Not one iota. Just because I'm doing something behind the scenes, it's not relevant in the video. And here I am trying to be all la 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 la, and I spelled ridiculous wrong. Oh boy.
Thing to work with. I don't even have to pull the plant out to see I have no roots.
That's true. That's true.
The plant itself tells me a story, so I'm leaving it alone. This is for me a time not to repot.
Right.
It's too much.
Still applies.
It won't.
But now she's doing fabulously for the first time since I have her, and this should be, well, I've had her since 2019, I believe, maybe 2020 early, I don't know. Was it 2020 Floralia order? Sijui. Oh, Sijui is Swahili for, I don't know. This one is now growing a second new growth for the first time in the same year. Happy days.
Make it. Not even with humidity. So I've left it exactly how the nursery sent it to me. And
it is in fabulous Ridiculous Laelia mix, still in the pot.
If and when I see some movement here and some roots, that's when I will take action and move it into
that
the
pot
setup that I have.
You move it into that pot, it's right. It's staring you in the face. I'm going to move it into... never mind. Inside joke.
So why this one? Well, consider the age. This one is now 2.5 years old. And as per my other video, it did absolutely nothing. This is how it was. Apart from losing a few leaves in the back, maybe 1 or 2, this one, like I said, is going to go. It's done nothing. So based on that...
Pretty much looks exactly the same this time around.
Icky
2.5 years. We are now 4.5 years of me owning this. It is still in its little pot. Yes, the roots are fine because we did a seedling repot, refresh, blah, 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 checking the root system video. I think it was later in the year or in 2021. She's fine. She's just not growing. She's just sort of sat there like, okay.
Looking root right there. You can see the remnants of it.
She's like an obnoxious elf on the shelf.
Now that is still functioning, but that's the only control I had to mist it every morning.
Yeah, still the same.
And then finally it put out this root, and you can see how it's accumulated salt.
Yeah.
And that is from the ceramis and whatever residue was in the water.
That's right.
In the early days, because it wasn't strong enough to absorb any nutrients. So if there's residue in the ceramis, no matter how you clean it, those minerals will build up.
That is correct.
The root. So that is that, but it didn't.
That is correct.
Thank goodness, because I kept misting it as it grew. And I started to also manipulate its direction of growth to go down, because it was quite happily going off in the opposite direction.
I was lucky to get away with that.
So because the plant was so small, I put it in a smaller container.
Good container, nice.
Because this way, if I keep pouring water through it, I have control of it. And the bigger container was a waste of space. There was no point. I had no roots. I needed a little smaller medium to hydrate or keep the humidity up around the little one. Whereas here, it's up to me to keep up the humidity because I don't want to move these plants.
Still applies.
When this gets big enough, and I'm saying
let's see what plants I've got.
I will move it, ceramis and all, into here. And for me, that is the beauty of inert media. I have no root interference or disturbance.
Inorganic, not inert.
It, no matter whether I have a new growth starting, new roots starting, or anything like that.
Okay, let me qualify that thought now. So far, yeah, we're still in tune there. We're still in tune. I'm just going to qualify that one thought now, because when I say no matter whatever, I don't need root growth to uppot an orchid if I so choose. But now, due to the circumstances, how things have changed, I won't do it during the winter or at any point in time if the orchid is not in active growth. So at this point in time, these orchids had come through a winter where they had lights and they had a little bit of warmth in the room. That's not happening anymore. That means I have to be much more careful about what I do with them during the stressful months. If they do decide to, produce roots during the winter, if my light level is good, light has to be a key factor for them to continue to photosynthesize, then I will repot. Seeing as that is not a guarantee during the winter, it's just a matter of pushing them through the months and then go into it straight away once the temperatures and the light levels are favorable, which also controls how much fertilizer I do or do not give them depending on my light levels. That's the one thing I want to qualify if anybody were to see this video and go, oh, okay. Please watch the replay of the live. This is an update. Louise Gunn, hey, welcome. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Good morning from Sydney. Hope you had a fabulous weekend, and I wish you a brilliant start to the new week. So we're just reviewing a very old seedling video. I don't know if you've been listening from a few moments back, but just in case, here we are doing this from a video back in 2020. Not only that, have some giggles while we're at it.
Don't have to take that into consideration. So I do not say that, bark is not good or sphagnum moss is not good, but sphagnum moss for me is far too expensive. And I always have to import it, and I honestly, I would rather spend money on a good fertilizer than on sphagnum moss. So I bought Ceramis in the early days, and I've been recycling.
All true and all valid. Hey, Michelle. Hey, it's good to have you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you had a fabulous evening yesterday.
So my intention here, and why I am okay to repot whenever I feel like it, once I see it performing in here, it's because I can just take it out and leave the Ceramis wherever it sticks to and put it into its next pot, which would be a size like this one, and then just fill around with leca, because this one will not need Ceramis.
We're still waiting for that moment. Meanwhile, it's still back in that pot.
I don't know if these are seedlings or not. I've got two Leonis because there's two different types.
Update 1.
Of what is in the Comore Islands.
I've got one left,
which is the larger version. If I'm not mistaken,
I've lost the larger version.
I have
this one,
the Comores and the Madagascar type. So I don't know.
I still have this one. She's doing fine.
Or a Madagascar type. We'll find out.
She's doing fine.
Nurseries are normally not that specific, but judging by what I see here, it's possible that this is the Comores one.
Yes, I think it was
anyway,
actually.
Back to the root circumstances. You can see how fine the roots are here. And I've put them in lava rock. Because Angraecums hate their roots disturbed. That
Correct.
Is the theory.
We know
honestly,
well. Yes, that is the theory, because I would like to have proof of that. Now, I am not going to be chopping away at my Angraecoid roots to prove it to you. But I do have a theory, and it is possible that in spring of 2023, we're going to have to test that theory. But that video is coming out Monday morning at 2 a.m. my time, Sunday evening, probably after this live, it'll come out. I did not mention the theory on that video, so everybody in this live stream is going to get a heads up. What you see tomorrow, if you're going to watch the video, good luck putting that back into the hedge come spring. I love it. Oh, I almost cried. Oh, anyway, so yes, as a matter of fact, in 2023, I may actually have to test the theory that I am thinking about this disturbance factor of Angraecoid roots. Yeah. Anyway, let's continue to listen to what she has to say.
Crestwood Tomorrow Star, I have that, but I'm not going to risk it. I'd rather err on the side of caution than to be like, oh, I know better. And then,
wait
wait
did
and
she
see
say
and find
about
out.
Crestwood? Did anybody catch what she said about Crestwood?
I'd rather err on the side of caution than to be.
Wait, we don't want.
With my Crestwood Tomorrow Star, I have not actually experienced that.
Yes, I haven't.
But
I haven't. And that is the thing about it. When I unpotted my Crestwood from the nursery container, of course it was in a tiny little container. I mean, really small, ridiculously small. And it was just, the roots had gone round and round and round and round. They made, hello Amina, welcome. They looked like cymbidium roots tightly packed in that pot. And there was sphagnum moss in there. And back in the day, I was all about cleaning my roots because I'm putting them into inorganic media. And I mean, I was serious about cleaning my roots. You should have seen what I did to my zygopetalum. You should, it was like, I think Michael would have fainted. Anyway, so back in the day, it was nothing short of taking a toothbrush and brushing the roots with a baby toothbrush. Seriously, don't do that. I was just, the crestwood. It was so tightly bound. I wanted that old sphagnum moss out. So, as you do, you give the roots a little bit of a squeeze, right? Maybe to loosen and shake some of that stuff out. And I heard crack, 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 crack. And I thought, okay, well, I think I'm just going to leave the sphagnum moss in there, plonked it into the orchid top and filled around with them lava rock and ceramis. 2 years later, she bloomed. If I didn't disturb those roots and crack them several times within themselves, then she shouldn't have bloomed for 5 years, which is what I told my daughter. Don't. Roby, never use a toothbrush. Don't, please, okay? Maybe I'm exaggerating, okay? Don't. This is not a top tip. Don't. But having said that, I even said to my daughter when I heard the cracking several times, I said, okay, well, that's it. She will definitely not bloom in 5 years. Meanwhile, I told my daughter 7 because she needs 2 years to adapt and grow, whatever. 2 years later, she bloomed for me. So I am kind of wondering, where is that coming from with don't disturb the roots?
I'm not going to risk it. I'd rather err on the side of caution than to be like, oh, I know better. And then, wait and see and find out. But I put it into this coarser, larger media, lava rock, with ceramis you can see interspersed for wicking. The orchid tops are perfect for that because this one's roots from the pot, whether they're still alive or not, I don't know, go all the way down. And then it becomes a self-watering setup because you don't put media in between, you leave the roots in the pot at the lower level, then fill up with media, and then you fill in the tray and it becomes a self-watering setup. Plus it's very airy. So because the roots are fine, I have better control how I mist them, moist them, and keep the plant humidified. I put it into larger media. And here you can see with the tiny little oncidium roots there from this baldum. This is varicosum baldin. And the story of this plant is also quite bizarre, interesting, or I got these little bulbs in the back. I think these 3, I think 2 and 2, yeah. And one of the biggest bulb actually has a huge munched snail hole in it. eBay seller, charming, never bought from him again. because, and I couldn't see the snail, the hole was so deep, but when I hydrogen peroxided it, I could see that something large had dissolved. I hydrogen peroxided it. I could see that something large had dissolved and it was oozing out. It was so gross. But needless to say, I put it straight away. It's been in this setup for 2.5 years. Nothing to work with, but being able to control the top layer with my daily mistings or as needed to keep it moist and humid, it grew the 2 new growths there. The
Don't tell me I was on mute all this time. I was on mute all this time. Well, at least you didn't hear the dog bark, but at least. Okay, well, moving on swiftly. Awkward. Okay, I was with the commentary. I do apologize. I cannot tell you, but yes, the dog started barking. I put on mute and I did not switch back to the screen. I am so sorry. What I was saying, first of all, when we were talking about terminology here at Orchid Ninja, at Ninja Orchids, again, my profound apologies. Yes, please, thank you. Sorry, Roby. Sorry, everybody. Anyway, when I was talking about I hydrogen peroxided it. Like we do this. We slosh, we swish, we plonk, we do everything very technical here at Ninja Orchid. So I hydrogen peroxided it. Okay. Anyway, wrong on there. But yes, when it came to this thing with the slug, this orchid came in terrible shape. It was, I know, Fernanda, awkward. I'm sorry. But it was so bad. And there was a massive hole, yes, and whatever. And it was disgusting. And then at that point, I actually said, if you can imagine a young child and you need to wipe its nose very, very quickly. And then I thought, oh, oops, you're welcome. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm still with it, I promise.
This is last year. And now I've got 1 and 2 more growing.
Meanwhile, this orchid is obnoxious. I love her blooms, but she is, as a species, yeah, not one of my favorites.
And the inert media makes it perfect for repotting at any time. Because, again, it doesn't need to be taken off the roots.
Yeah, you're repeating yourself.
It can be done, you know, let's be reasonable. If it's dead in winter, it's snowing outside, you're not using heat mats, and don't have a humidifier, etc., etc.
Yes.
You know, those are all components where it's like, you know, you can wait a few months and then the conditions will help you in the progress of your seedling. But I would always recommend inert media. In the beginning, it might be a little bit more work because you have to keep the flow of humidity going and also pushing through the water, and you know,
that is still true.
Nutrients, but just, you know, giving the pot a good flush.
That still applies.
In the oxygen through the root system.
Yep, I preach that all the time. Sorry.
What I do with seedlings.
I do sound obnoxious when I say that, but I don't know who watches the videos for the first time, but it is fundamental to get the oxygen into those pots initially, and then everything else after that should be plain sailing.
I keep them in the winter. I have them on a shelf where there's always airflow by the terrace door, even if it's not that
same location.
Warm outside. I can crack that part of the door open they will always have airflow because I do mist in the winter as well.
Not anymore, because they're more established now. Well, I'm sorry, I keep talking to them as in a pair. It's like Siamese twins, they belong together. Anyway, not anymore. I only just fill the dish. No way am I going around the base in the winter anymore.
And I want them to dry out, of course. But so they're in like bright shade. There's no direct sun on these whatsoever.
Yes,
the
there
Leonis in the morning get.
Yes, there is some bright shade, direct sun, but it is so weak it makes absolutely no difference.
Sun now because of the angle of the sun.
Oh, I correct. Okay, maybe I should listen to this woman before I interject.
Because I don't want to fry them. They are in bright shade.
I'm frying them now, and especially this one. I'm frying it now because if maybe it's been too shaded, and being a Leopoldii cross, it's getting fried. You're not growing for me, you're gonna get more light.
All the other ones that you saw in my previous video of the juveniles, they are in bright shade as well.
Thank you,
I
Roby.
don't give them direct sun.
I appreciate that.
That's just
I know I sound
much.
like a broken record.
Too much, the dehydration of the leaves would go through the roof, and you don't want that.
No.
So
never.
Yeah. Not
never,
entirely
ever,
sure I answered all your questions. I hope I did. But again, we have the beauty of the comment section below.
Which we're not going to review. I promise you we're not going to.
And fire.
You know, I was thinking the other day, maybe after a video like this, especially the Orchid Arsenal, which was the first one we ever reviewed, I had to just laugh my head off, just because it was just embarrassing and awkward. But on the other hand, I was thinking, wow, it was one of the first videos where I also heard my voice back, and it freaked me out completely. On editing, it just freaked me out. My daughter upstairs now, when she hears me editing, she shuts the door because she's thinking, well, every time I'm home, this woman keeps talking at me. Now I have to listen to her even when she's not talking to me. She's having none of it. But I tell you, it was actually the second or third day I thought maybe one day I should also review the comments. But what I'm going to do is, in actual fact, do a title of live that says I'm going to be reviewing questions that were presented in a video, and I'm going to do the live answering those questions in a live, because the dormancy of the orchid roots, that video had so many good comments, and in it there were some intricate questions which were answered in the comments, but not everybody goes to the comments. And I just thought maybe if we do a live and everybody brings their input in based on your environment, we can review some comments as well and see where we, see where we go. Right now, of course, these lives aren't attracting that much of an audience that, maybe eventually somebody will watch the replay. You've got the answer there. If somebody asks me the same question, I'll send them to an hour and a half of a replay. That'll teach them to come to watch the live. Because who wants that? Oh yeah, by the way, here's a video answering exactly what you're saying. Go listen, go watch. That's how you make friends. Oh dear, I'm telling you. Anyway, I am not going to wait for this woman to start spewing her. Thank you very much for watching. Oh gosh, I'm telling you. I can just imagine the indignation of the person that reads my reply, goes to the video and says, excuse me, where is this information? Enjoy. Anywho, does anybody want to come up? Anybody want to talk about something related to the video, to the subject, to the new orchid species that was discovered? Anything along those lines, because I am always happy to do that. Let me see that I bring her back up, because if we're going to really star something and feature something, then we got to do that with what we've got available right here. Can you believe it? Can you imagine being the person to find something like this? I wish the article would have been a little bit more elaborate as well, to say that this really resembles a Podangus dactylotheras, instead of saying within the family of similar orchids, blah, blah, blah. They were being very, very vague there, but isn't that amazing? Tanzania, you rock. You rock. But anyway, if nobody wants to come up, if nobody has, oh, Roby's question. Yep, because I took notes. And I think because we don't have that big of a chat, let's go all the way and find that again. Here we go. I've got you. I got you right there. Let's address this. I'm glad I took notes. Okay, Roby, Elalia purpurata does not need a temperature difference to bloom. It needs a temperature difference to rest. Is there a difference? Yes and no, because the opinions are kind of widespread on that. Some people say that Elalia purpurata will not bloom if it doesn't get a rest or it doesn't get a temperature difference. So they're kind of interchangeably linked. Now, I don't believe, because of my purpuratas in the past, that they need a temperature difference to bloom, because my grow space in the winter was always kept, including heat mats, at 20 degrees Celsius, day and night. No, night. Day, of course, higher, because when the sun came in during the winter, temperatures would rise a little bit because I wouldn't switch the heat mats off. So I would have about 24, 25 indoors, and then at night it would just drop to about 20. Now, my Werkhäuserin bloomed the first year after I got her. She came to me as a juvenile near blooming size, and then she bloomed promptly. She had no distinct temperature difference at all, and she bloomed. Then my striata bloomed the same year as well. It was my Werkhäuserin striata that didn't bloom, or vice versa. One of them didn't bloom until this year. It was her first time to bloom. She had a temperature drop that was forced because of my circumstances. However, the other two bloomed as well. There was absolutely no difference in their performance, so I believe the one that bloomed for the first time this year would have bloomed even if she didn't have a temperature drop. When it comes to purpuratas, what they need more than anything else is light. So when I say resting, and if you're in semi-hydro, you probably already understand about the reservoir being empty, but the media not letting it to dry out. And then if the orchid isn't in active growth, we reduce the fertilizer, blah, 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 and all that fun stuff. I'm not trying to rush the subject, but I don't want to repeat something that you may already know. So I don't want to be presumptuous here. However, in the stage of growth that mine are at the moment, they're still outside because they can take lower temperatures, and tomorrow the nights will be a little bit milder. But having said that, they're only outside because I couldn't be bothered to bring them in. I've been so busy with other stuff, and they'll be okay. They are in active growth right now to such a degree that I have never seen them do before. So it's the first time I'm experiencing my purpuratas to be so advanced in their active growth this time of year, as opposed to seeing their new growth start in December for them then to bloom in June. So this is a first to me. So by the time they come inside, I've already got sheaths in some of them, even though the growth hasn't matured. They will bloom in spring, throughout summer, some even into fall if it's some kind of a primary hybrid or a breed, a cross between two parents of purpuratas, and there is no temperature drop per se. That is my opinion. However, if you do not give light to your purpuratas, no matter what you do, they won't bloom. All right? So based on the status of the growth and how the orchid is at this point in time, I would say that temperature drop has nothing to do with the blooming of a purpurata. Fernanda may have a completely different opinion and experience in her environment, and she also grows in bark and she blooms her purpuratas. So I don't want to put contradicting information out there, but without light, your purpurata should not have a lush greenish leaf. It shouldn't be like a beautiful dark colored green leaf. It has to have a tinge of yellow in it. I have a video. I don't know. Let me know, Roby, if you have seen the video of the Orchid Lingo series where I talk about light. If you want to let me know if you've seen that, I have a swatch. In that video, I created a swatch. Yeah, you've got light. That's great. Look, I'm going to share a link in the chat. Oh, you've seen it. Okay. There's a swatch right at the end that you can, if you want to, just go to that video, go to the end, and you can screenshot that if you want to, or just look at all the descriptions below and you will see the different colors of whatever the leaf color should be for whatever orchid example I've put there. Yes, whatever example I've put there, you can see basically the leaf color that the orchid should have in order for it to bloom. So if you have any questions about that, then, you know, in any other video, Roby, just keep asking. However, this thing about temperature drop, we have to be very, very careful. And the other day when Fernanda and I were practicing this, you know, without going live, we actually had exactly... No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. You see, my winters here in 2018, 19, and into 2020, when my Verkhäuserie had been blooming and blooming, I had maybe 5 degrees of a temperature drop in the winter from whatever it was during the day with the heat mats on to the night with the heat mats on. And my Verkhäuserie just keeps blooming. So there you go. But you can judge if you're giving an orchid enough light based on the color of the leaves. So if something isn't blooming, they always say, well, check your light levels. Yeah, lights can also be stressful. Too much light for some orchids will stop them from blooming because they're conserving energy and they're not going to bloom and waste their energy. So they just stop and they don't progress. But Fernanda and I had a great go there. Okay. Fernanda and I had a great chat the other day where we were also agreeing that, excuse me, that when people say that an orchid can appreciate or tolerate temperatures down to, let's say, 10 degrees Celsius, which is 50 degrees Fahrenheit, I do believe, if I remember rightly, Fernanda. The thing is, yes, they can, but if the days don't get hot, there is no counterbalance for the cold they experience at night. So when you see, for example, and that is why I'm watching my purpuratas, even though they're still outside, yes, they can take it low, but my temperatures aren't rising that high during the day. Excuse me. So I have to be very, very careful what I'm doing. An orchid can tolerate low temps, but if the day temps do not rise enough, then the night temps will become intolerable, if that makes sense. But I find Laelia purpuratas of the orchid species, including Cattleya maxima, to be the easiest to bloom, the most rewarding to grow. I don't know, if Fernanda's still with us, then I don't know if she can confirm that with her experience with Laelia purpuratas. They are so, so nice to have. They also grow bolt upright. There is nothing flopping around. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous orchid, and you're going to love it. Roll on spring, if I'm assuming you're going to buy it in spring. Yeah. No wonder there's people that's all they grow. That's all they grow. Laelia purpuratas of all kinds of varieties. I mean, my first care on Laelia purpurata, that video, I went through all the different varieties that you can have. And that's just from the names that can be, you know, the most common ones. Never mind. They have Laelia purpurata shows in Brazil just on Laelia purpuratas, competitions, you name it. It's insane. Absolutely. Oh, and the fragrance. Roby, you're gonna love it. Absolutely. I hope you get yourself one. And well, I don't think there's any Laelia purpurata that I wouldn't have in my collection if I had more space. I just lean very much towards white and the cerula blue kind of hues. So that's why I got a Verkhäuserie and Verkhäuserie striata. Duh. And a normal striata, but anyway. Oh, goodness me. I am so sorry for the glitches here tonight. I do apologize. I got a double up stream suddenly. I'm sorry for that. Sorry also for the mic going off and me not switching it on again after the dogs had settled down. I do apologize. I appreciate your patience very, very much. Thank you. I hope that you enjoyed tonight. And we'll see if I'm going to do this tomorrow. I mean, it is the start of the week. I have to pace myself a little bit. Oh, Fernanda, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. Oh, that is so sweet of you to say. It's quite embarrassing because at the end of the day, I don't want the dogs barking through the mic, but then I also have to remember to put the mic back on. Yeah, exactly. You see, that's what I don't like. I don't want people stressed at the other end. It says fun, giggles, and orchids, not, I'll stress you out with my incompetence at this end. That's not what the ticker says, Oh, sorry about that. But anyway, I'm going to see how the week progresses. I know I will. Thank you. I'll see how the week progresses because if it's the start of the week, I'm thinking that maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I may not go live unless somebody says, let's have a morning coffee chat and then we can do that. Yeah, I know. But can you imagine people with their headphones on? Oh, I don't know. When it happens to me with the headphones and somebody else, I just find that I try to be respectful of everybody's eardrums. Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe to go live again Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but we'll have to figure out some times. I want to have some more feedback. We'll see. We'll see. Either way, if there's a notification, I'll be here. And thank you once again for showing up. Whatever you have planned on your Sunday evening, make sure it is cozy and that you please, please stay safe. Love your support. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Hasta pronto. Bye.